Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this video, we're changing up the pace. We haven't done an NFL video in quite some time, but obviously there's an event going on Sunday that we're going to have our hands in. We're going to have quite a few bets for, and that event obviously is the Super Bowl. It's a fantastic looking game when you pin the Eagles against the Chiefs. It's the rematch from 2 years ago, and honestly, I'm very excited to dive into it here. And when you're looking at this matchup, I think there's a number of different angles, and we're going to be exploring quite a few of them, mainly on the sides sort of standpoint, betting against the spread, but also we have some pretty good long shot odds on player props, as well as just kind of some regular over-unders on player props here as well. But man, I'm excited to get into it, so I say we go ahead and do it. All right, first up, we're going to be taking a look at the biggest bet for our Super Bowl slate. We're going to be picking a side here, and obviously the Chiefs are a very good team. They're damn near complete, and when you look at the Eagles, I think they are fully complete, and that was kind of the debate for me, because I do think that if it comes down to crunch time, I'd rather have Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts, but I do think that the Eagles are going to have the ability to have this game played at their tempo, with the ball in their hands, because they do have that great offensive line. They do have a great ground game, and they just have a lot of players that kind of work in unison to keep this offense moving forward. And at times this season, when the Chiefs have played really good defenses, and when you look down their schedule, that was kind of few and far between. They didn't have a lot of great defenses on their schedule this season, but when they did play up, they did have some struggling spots, and I do think in the early goings, or at least in some stretches during this game, the Eagles are going to have an advantage there. And for that reason, I am going to take the 1.5 points with Philadelphia. I do think this is one of those games, too, where you don't want to just play the money line if you are getting that one in a hook, because there are going to be 2-point conversion attempts, I think, from both sides. And you don't want to be in that, that 24-23 territory at the end of a game where your massive bet is solely reliant on a 2-point conversion, a tush push, or, a quick slant or a fade. It's very, very kind of rolling the dice. And I like having that in my back pocket. I'm glad we're getting a good price on it. And I say we take that 1.5 points here with Philadelphia for 4 units for our first bet here in the Super Bowl. For pick number 2, we are heading out to the touchdown scorers market, and we're going to be taking a long shot stab here, and we're going to be looking at Kenny Gainwell to score a touchdown, and plus 1,400, we're going to lay a unit on it here. I really do love the fact that Kenny Gainwell has already gotten some touches in the playoff cycle, and when you look at Saquon Barkley, obviously he's going to be the focal point on the offense for the Eagles, but when teams have had success against the Chiefs this season, it's by keeping their star players fresh. And whether that's going to be, Jalen Hurts taking some carries off of Saquon Barkley's shoulders, or a guy like Kenny Gainwell, I think both of them are going to kind of work in tandem for that purpose. And I do think that Kenny Gainwell is going to have at least an outside chance at getting in the end zone. And at these odds, these long shot odds, I'm all over it. So let's go ahead and bet Kenny Gainwell to score a touchdown here for 1 unit for our second bet here in the Super Bowl. For pick number 3, we're going to be staying in that same kind of sphere that we just talked about, where, who's going to be able to help Saquon Barkley and alleviate some of the carries and some of the ground burden that he might have going up against a pretty stout Kansas City defense. And I think Jalen Hurts is the other guy that I would be taking a look at here. And when you look at his rushing yards total sitting at 36.5, I do feel like that's a very reasonable number, especially if they are trailing late in the game. Running out of bounds after a 20-yard scramble could easily get that mark over that number there. And when you're also factoring in that the tush push is viable and just his ability to scramble in the red zone is super viable, I think there's a really decent chance that he gets in the end zone as well. So let's go ahead and take both of those props here for 2 units apiece for our third and fourth bets here in the Super Bowl. All right, next up, we are taking a look at the receivers market, and the receiver we're going to be taking a look at here is going to be on the Eagles, and his name is Devontae Smith. Not A.J. Brown, not Dallas Goedert, but I really do think that Devontae Smith is going to be the star of the show for the Eagles in terms of their air raid attack. And when you are looking at Devontae Smith, he has been quiet this postseason. I totally understand that, but I think in large part, that's been due more to game flow, weather conditions, and just ultimately those two factors kind of working in cohesion, because when you look at the Commanders game, when you look at the Rams game, when you look at the Packers game, all of those had some really harsh elements, whether it was snow, wind, rain, and in terms of the game flow in the Commanders game and in the Packers game, the Eagles were leading very early on, and there wasn't really that risk aptitude to start throwing the ball downfield where I think Devontae Smith can really kill you. And in terms of last Super Bowl in 2023, when the Chiefs and the Eagles played each other, Devontae Smith had a fantastic game. He was a focal point of the offense, and whether or not, he gets in the end zone would be a massive boost for us, but I really do think he does. I also think he smashes this over on 50.5 receiving yards, and for those reasons, I say we take both bets for our 5th and 6th bets here in the Super Bowl. All right, for our final 2 bets here in the Super Bowl, we're heading back to the rushing yards market, and we're moving to the other side, to the Kansas City Chiefs side on offense, and we're going to be taking a look at a player that I think might throw you guys a little bit off here, and that player is Xavier Worthy. And the reason why I'm picking Xavier Worthy, as you guys can probably decipher, is Andy Reid is a genius. He's been cooking up stuff for over a week now, trying to get his best players involved, get the ball in the best players' hands. That's a great philosophy that the Shanahans obviously have adopted, and Andy Reid is right alongside them there. And Xavier Worthy is obviously one of their most dynamic players, if not the most dynamic player that they have at their disposal. And he's been going over this number quite a few times this season, and even done so in the playoffs as well. But we're going to be taking the over on his rushing yards set at 5.5. I feel like that's just way too low. And in addition, with that bet, we're also going to be placing a touchdown anytime score bet for him as well. I do feel like he is totally viable in this game as a receiver as well, and getting that plus money price at plus 160 just kind of feels like a no-brainer to me. So let's go ahead and take Xavier Worthy over on rushing yards and to get a touchdown for our final 2 bets here in the Super Bowl. All that being said, I am so excited to watch this game here tomorrow, and I know you guys are as well. It's a great event, one of the best events that gets put on every single year, and when you are watching this game, make sure you're having a good time, hang out with friends, and if you are also wondering about our college basketball bets for Sunday, I will have a short video out here pretty soon as well, but with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.